Good morning, everyone. Thanks for all coming in. As folks are coming in, kind of have a prompt on the first slide, on the introduction slide. I'd love to get your response to this prompt, where your favorite vacation spot is, especially since we are finishing up spring break and some folks are just getting on spring break. So in the spirit of spring break, finding out where some of your favorite vacation spots are as folks are getting into the call. Yeah, you guys are well traveled. There's no like, Dallas, and I'm thinking regular stuff. Y'all saying some real stuff. So I was looking for some United States spots, Seattle and things like that. You guys dropping some major names, so major places. And today, Sohail, speaking of vacation and spring break, Sohail will not be here. Dr. Sood is not here today. I do have Dr. Houston in the room today. Dr. Houston, I'm doing a welcome, but I want to make sure to open it up and give you an opportunity to welcome the group if you see fit, Dr. Houston.
Well, thank you. Just, welcome. And we know this is such a busy time of year. Our plates are full. It is award season and celebration season and event season. So thank you for taking time out of your day this morning to come together. This work is really picking up steam, and it's because of all of you and what you're doing in between these meetings to ensure that when we meet together, we have some meaningful dialogue. So thank you. And I'll toss it back over to James. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Houston. So, Bill, we'll go to the next slide.
Yep. Just give me a sec here.
Okay. So we want to really have an opportunity to introduce folks. We've had an opportunity this month to look at adding some folks to the CLWG, to this larger group, as well as having some conversation with our counties on asking them to begin to invite some of their agency partners to this space. We really want to create this space, the CLWG meetings, really to be an opportunity for our counties, our demonstration counties, to actually interface with some of our state leads around this work. And so we started the conversation and started these meetings really school focused. And I think as we've learned through this project thus far, the importance of us really, the work is really in our interagency collaboration, and the schools are going to benefit from that. And so what we've done this month is really begin to start inviting some other folks to come into the room, as well as encourage our counties to invite their partners to this space. And so we've had some additions to the CLWG, and I wanted to give an opportunity for you folks to see who's new into the room. I won't name everybody. I was asking Mike and them how to say some of the names. I won't mess up folks' names, but I want to give you guys an opportunity to see that, as well as give people, if there's any other people who are new inside the room, to please put new in the chat, right? That'll give us an opportunity to see who's in the room and who's new to this space. Holly, thank you. Certainly want to give an opportunity for folks to be acknowledged.
Your pizza from last night is in my bag.
Kristen, thank you. So we certainly want to make sure that we are giving our counties, our demo counties, the opportunity to really collaborate with our state folks. I also want to point out, had a great conversation with my new friend, Nav, from community schools from Sacramento, They are new. They are the new STAC, and we've been working very well with Alameda. And as Sacramento moves into this space, just doing the work of community schools, helping them to be a major partner in this project is what me and Nav had an opportunity to speak about. I know Ms. Pitt. I don't know if she's on the call as well today, but that was another one of the partners from Sacramento to this work as well. So we'll be continue to work with Alameda as they're transitioning with Sacramento, but certainly wanted to put a major emphasis on the STAC, the new STAC being in the space, as well as giving shout out to Deputy Superintendent Kobe Smart from Humboldt. So I had a good conversation with Peter this week or last week, and Peter just talked about how invested Kobe Smart is in this work. And so it's always great to get the leaders in our counties to really lean into this work. And so we appreciate that as well. Appreciate your attendance and your support. We go to the next slide. And I want to just give some attention to these new dates. Bill, we go to the next slide.
Yeah, I think I'm having some. Is that Sharon?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
So we do have dates for our year 3. We will be sending these dates out, but just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to see the dates. One of the main focuses I want to put your attention to is really one of the some of the feedback we got from our Southern California meeting this year was the idea around looking at it being a 2-day opportunity so that people had, as they were traveling, most folks are traveling from Northern California, that we get an opportunity to really benefit from that travel. And so we'll be working on a 2-day meeting, and we kind of moved it from March to April to kind of support with the weather. This year's meeting in March, we had some weather issues and folks weren't able to travel. So we want to push it back a month to hopefully give us a little more opportunity where folks are able to, the weather won't impact our ability to come together. And so these dates will be sent out for your calendars, but just wanted to get you guys' eyes on year 3's dates, okay? And then I'm gonna slide to the side and let Bill take over from here. Thank you all again for your attendance and really looking for an engaging conversation today. Thank you all.
Great. Thanks, James. Hey, everybody, I'm Bill Porter. I've had a chance to meet many of you. Some of you are new. I'm with Education First. We try to provide a little bit of glue during these meetings to keep us moving forward. I wore a sweater this morning, and so it's kind of hard for me to roll up my sleeves, but this is the part of the meeting where we're going to roll up our sleeves and get into the work. So just as a quick recap, many of you have seen this slide before, but the work that we're really engaged in this year and next year, and this whole project actually is really focused on helping our counties deliberately take these 4 steps to creating a new ecosystem of care, an ecosystem that brings together social services and education and behavioral health to better serve families and youth, especially families and youth who are struggling. The first step, which we've spent a lot of time the last couple of months really focused on, is really building that interagency team. And the ideas here are both around collaboration and coordination. No one agency can do this alone. You need the full partners. If you're going to change social services and have them better coordinate with education, you need both social services and education at the table. Also embedded in this step, of course, is getting the right leaders at the table and giving them a place to hash out what this new ecosystem looks like and the roles different agencies play and what gets prioritized in setting goals. Second step really then speaks to, as that leadership group comes together, as you're able to engage other agencies, what do we know about the needs in the community? Different agencies collect different data. How could we maybe put all that data together and get smarter about what's happening in our community? Related, how do we actually engage our community? How do we engage the partners and youth who are trying to access these services and better understand what they want and what works for them? And so number two is really getting smarter about what do we know about our community, and what do we want to prioritize in terms of improving the systems that we offer and creating a more holistic system that works for more of our population. So those two steps have really been the things that we're focusing on this year. We've spent a lot of time really talking about the leadership structure. We've started folding in more conversations about step number two with the needs assessment and community engagement. Really, our future meetings, our last two meetings this year, are going to focus a lot more on step two. Briefly, I'll talk about steps 3 and 4. That's really going to be the work of next year, but just as a preview. Number 3 then is, once you come together, once you assess what you need, once you set some goals, 3 is really about redeploying the actions and activities to start putting the new way of working together in place. That includes figuring out which services to prioritize, how to prioritize them, and whether you've got the staff and the pipelines of talent actually to do what you want to get done. And step 4 really speaks to sustainability. How does funding, how does staffing, how does continuous quality improvement function to sort of keep the wheels on this new car that you've built moving forward? So again, 1 and 2 are the focus of this year. 3 and 4 will be a little bit more of a focus next year. So for today's meeting specifically, hang on here, we are primarily going to use a scenario that we've developed for you, and we'll say a little bit more about that later in the meeting. But we've created a scenario really as a jumping off point for conversations about how are our systems in our counties currently working, where are the gaps in care, and more importantly, what would it take to sort of begin to overcome those gaps? What are some of the opportunities that are created? If we really wanted to create a new ecosystem where families and youth could access the services they need at any time, and make sure that the services they're accessing are the ones they need. Who needs to be at the table? Are those people currently at your table? Who's missing from the table? The point of the scenario is to really help us, I think, just have a different way of talking about some of these questions of where do we go from here? Do we have the right folks at the table? Who's engaged? Who's not engaged? Who else might need to invite in? What are our blind spots? What can we do to address those blind spots? So we're going to spend a lot of time in today's meeting really talking about the scenario. First, we're going to well, first, actually, in just a few minutes, we're going to kind of create a bridge to March's meeting. At our in-person March meeting, very productive. We had a lot of both plenary and individual group sessions focused on individual aspects of those 2 implementation steps. The counties had quite a bit of a time to digest, think about, bounce ideas off of each other and off of CLWG members. And every county, I think, left that meeting with some real clear next steps about how they were going to kind of keep chipping forward at this agenda, moving the work forward. So we're going to celebrate some of the success and the headway they've made over the last 4 or 5 weeks today. And also just as a way of kind of keeping track of like, how's everybody moving forward? And, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So it's also, I think, understanding, look, maybe we're able to move forward, but we hit another wall. And so also just want to kind of put that out there. So we're going to hear what's happening in the 4 counties as soon as I stop talking till about 9:30. Celebrate their successes and get informed about what's happening on the ground. Then about 9:30, we are going to shift gears here. We're going to pick up that scenario. It's hyperlinked in the agenda we sent around last week, but we'll also put a link for you in the chat here in a little bit when it's time. And we'll break into the 4 county groups to kind of talk about that scenario. I'll give you more instructions at that time. We're going to give you a quick break in the middle of the meeting. You can go off, fill up your coffee cup, go walk around your office, your house, let the dog out, whatever, to take a good break. Then we're going to come back, and we've actually invited Fresno to kind of replay their conversation about the scenario, kind of as a learning opportunity for all of us. Kind of puts Fresno on the hot seat to say, hey, how did we tackle this scenario? And what did we find, honestly, about what's going well and what are some things we might need to attend to in our county? But we're calling it a fishbowl because we generally do hope that it's not just a one-sided panel conversation, but would really invite, as in a typical fishbowl conversation, folks kind of joining the conversation and saying, well, gosh, we tackle this differently in our county, or I've seen another county in California tackle things this way, or I'm still confused about how to do this thing, and would love to hear Fresno if you could say some more about that. So we're going to take about half an hour as kind of a full group again to use Fresno's response to the scenario as another learning exercise. And then we'll recess back into our 4 planning groups for the last couple minutes of the meeting and give folks a chance to write down some notes, some next steps, really clarify their thinking before we wrap up at 11. So that's the overall plan. I don't know if there's any immediate questions or things folks wanted to raise. Stop sharing my screen here, seeing if I see anybody with their.
Can't hear anything because I can't.
Everybody all right? All right, Brittany, why don't I turn things over to you then for this this next section?
Thanks, Bill.
And I'm moving the slide here in a second. Yeah.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Brittany Ramsey, also from EdFirst. We want to talk about a couple things before we dive into the scenario and everything. And that is, as Bill was saying, you all did a bunch of work back in March together and created some, Bill, I think actually if you stop sharing your screen, that'd probably be good.
Okay.
Because then I can pull it up. Yeah. But wanted to come back to it because I know there was some excitement towards the end of the meeting and you all are going to dive in. And so just want to start our meeting today hearing from you all about how you've been able to move forward with those action plans. The other thing for those of you who are new is that one thing we've started to do is create these county workbooks that allow each of the demonstration counties to kind of work on things within a common document so that, you know, as time goes by, you've kind of got a repository there. So what I'd like to ask someone, a representative from each one of the demo counties to do is take a couple minutes. I'll pull up your action items from March and just talk to us about what successes you would highlight and where you would need more information and or support to get to move on these action items. So we always start with Alameda because we tend to go alphabetically, but I'm happy to have any of you raise your hand and let me know, and I'll pull up your workbook. Would anyone particularly like to start one of the demo counties?
Good
Brittany, we're
morning,
used to
Brittany.
it, so I'm happy to go first if unless somebody else wants to tag in.
No, that's great, Armando. All right, I'll pull yours up.
I think that was Alameda County,
Oh,
but
it
I'm
was
happy to go
Alameda.
first. Yeah, that was Dennis.
Sorry,
But,
Armando, you were kind of lit up, so it looked like.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was gonna volunteer, so if it's okay, we can go first. Thank you, Dennis. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. Armando Lopez from Imperial County Office of Education. We're actually starting our spring break this week. Actually, we started on Friday, so majority of our team is actually not here. I was hoping that a couple might be able to join, but it looks like I'm flying solo for this one. But with that said, happy Monday morning. And so I'm traveling to Sacramento, so I'm en route. So I stopped at a Starbucks. So just in case you hear anything behind me, that's what it is. And so as we're going through this work, along with the AB 2083 conversation that we've been having around the structure of creating the ILT, at the last in-person meeting, we were able to take our senior director for our alternative education that supports foster youth and our foster youth managers. So they were able to hear the information around the AB 2083 and the MOU work that's been happening. And so as we were able to dive into that conversation and really just better understand what directions to take and go to some meetings, we also recognize that that space has specific work that's been happening, and the ILT structure is a little bit different than what we're looking into. So we started that conversation. We met with alternative education and the foster youth. And so we had more questions than answers after going down that route. And so what we want to now is really lean into the core group for the County Office of Education in working on identifying the specific agencies. You'll see that on that second line 5. We decided to kind of move in a slightly different direction around who are the agencies that we're going to be targeting. So it's not exactly the same from the ILT, from the AB 2083 work, but we'll have the County Office, Behavioral Health Services, the Health Probation, Sheriff's Department, Social Services, and then Public Health, and then also reaching out to one of the local Native American tribal groups around this specific work. And so as we've identified who the agencies are, we're now looking at our initial meeting that we're going to be having with them. We're planning to have this meeting in June. And so in also meeting with James not too long ago, looking at having someone from our CLWG kind of help facilitate that conversation as well. So right now we're kind of in that onboarding process stage, our elevator speech to the agencies around bringing them to this space to have these conversations. And so that'll be happening within the next month and a half. We're being very selective around who's having that initial conversation, because it's not about adding more work to their plate, but really being purposeful and intentional around the work that they're already doing and how we can break this and bridge this work. And so that'll be happening in the next month and a half as we get together and solidify the date in probably late June, mid to late June, to have that initial ILT meeting with our group.
Thank you, Armando.
Thank you.
Dennis, I think let's go to you.
All
And
right.
You don't want, you guys have done more than what's in your action plan, is that right? So
We can put it up if you like, but I got a couple other things to report on as well.
Okay.
So hello, everybody. Unlike you, Armando, our spring break seems like it is like way in the rearview mirror already. So I hope you enjoy it. So a couple notable things here on our end in Alameda County. First is that we've been working with Richard Connect to support interagency alignment. And a big part of that, of course, is revisiting our AB 2083 and working across agencies to deepen and make more relevant that work. We also are bringing in an additional partner from behavioral health. LaFonza Gibbs will be joining us. He's on vacation this week, so he's not able to join us in this meeting, but we're excited to broaden out this work and have it be more inclusive of more agencies and continue that expansion into the future as well. And just a quick note too, I'm excited to have Navdeep on the call. And while the STAC work is shifting to, the statewide work is shifting to Sacramento, we are all in on our countywide coordination and T2 involvement at Alameda County office. Colleagues, anything else to add to that?
I would just add from the ILT space, we've really been doing some organizing and connections between our county structure, which is a little bit different in that we have what we call ICC, which is the agency heads from the different county agencies. We also have an ILT, and then we have an ILT subcommittee, which is almost an EAC. So we really have started to map out those structures, and then internally within ACOE at the cabinet level, we really have been doing some exploration around expanding and deepening the work and connection between this work and the community schools more broadly, and really thinking about like organizationally, structurally, how do we tie that together internally? Since we have so many people who are representing the agency in some of these different cross-agency spaces, but how do we develop sort of a more coordinated internal strategy so that as we're in those spaces, folks that are representing our agency really are aware of what is happening within ILT, what the goals are of ILT. And so we've just began some of that planning work with our superintendent's office and really thinking about the role that ICC and our superintendent's office will be playing in that process as well. So that has required us to do a little bit of reimagining and restructuring our org chart to align with some of the ways our county functions and operates. I think that's the only additional thing to add there, Dinesh.
Thanks, Dr. Powell.
Thank
Fresno
you,
could go
Shauna.
next.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tammy Freitas, and Trina's going to join us as well. I'm the Senior Director with Fresno County Superintendent of Schools, and we're excited to join you as well. We have a new partner, Holly Northcross, and she's joining us from our site, our Washington Unified site, so we're excited to have her. But a little update from last time we met, we are really working on defining a whole child approach, starting from the top at AB 2083 down to our internal advisory, and really talking about what that looks like with our internal advisory team and meetings. And so our next internal advisory at FCSS is going to be this Friday. So we're working on really defining our roles and how we all are working together and collectively and serving the whole child approach. And we really pride ourselves in a no wrong door policy, no wrong door for our youth, no wrong door for our parents. So we're excited about that. And our next meeting for our internal advisory will be this Friday. But Trina, would you like to share a little bit about our 2083 and updates with that?
Yeah, thank you, Tammy. Good morning, everyone. Trina Frazier with Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. And like Alameda, we're working with Richard, and we have formed an ILT and an EAC. And we're meeting this week, and we'll probably get through most of the MOU. We're revising the MOU so that all of the agencies can work together. And we've done so far 2 case consultations, which have been really helpful on really high need new youth and families. And so it's been a really great process. And it's really great when you get in one room and are able to work with all the different agencies and they're all there present. So it's been great work.
Mm-hmm.
And Fresno, I know you all brought the 2 members that you've introduced, so thank you very much. And I apologize for Imperial and Alameda. I don't know whether you all have new folks with us today, but wonder if you want to introduce them as well.
Imperial
Anybody
doesn't.
new?
LaFonza Gibbs, who's the Director of Behavioral Health, will be joining us, but he is not able to join in this meeting, but we'll see him in the future.
Okay, great. So we're moving on to Humboldt.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see folks in the room. Well, we're happy to report in terms of our 2083 ILT work that we have come to a draft that we're all reviewing from work that we've done with some support from this core team with Richard and Elizabeth and Michael, but then also some working sessions that we've done with some local consultants. And that those meetings in and of itself were very robust. They were all about relationship and breaking down various areas of the MOU, looking at the language. For example, in terms of language, we've replaced the term EAC with IAT, which is Interagency Action Team. We really saw that, with the ILT sort of being the advisory, that the EAC are a lot of the folks that are moving and acting on that work. So that was an exciting revelation. Everybody's sort of like, let's give that group the power to create that change and create subgroups from there, with the ILT being our advisory. So we are getting together the first week of May. maybe in person to review those final results and make any tweaks and move forward. As far as inviting new members, we have identified new members. It's a little challenging for us because, as I'd mentioned before, this meeting takes place at the same time as Cabinet does at Humboldt County Office of Ed. So Katie Kavanaugh, who's an active member in this group and assistant superintendent, as well as Colby, who was mentioned earlier as a new member to this group, are unable to attend this time. So just would love to look at that and consider that moving forward. So that we can include that. And then we also have some folks that we are going to be inviting. Kaylee Emery, who's the Deputy Director for Children's Behavioral Health. We have a strong partnership with them. We've been holding up that partnership. Some of you may have heard of our Humboldt Bridges to Success project that we have with the Department of Health and Human Services, which is a mental health partnership that really came out of, you know, oh geez, early grants, the triage grant. And so that continues. We're now calling that Humboldt Bridges to Wellness. So it's a very integrated program. And now we have hired 7 wellness coaches onto our staff to be county liaison and working with them. So using that as a model of the integrated work that can be done in this county. So that's been very exciting. I also like to open the floor up. We've got Felicia Doherty, I believe, is in this meeting, as well as Crystal Olea from Humboldt County. If you want to add anything around community schools or anything else, feel free.
Thank you, Peter. I will just add that we are engaging within our own office here with what we call our Community School Internal Steering Committee, and we're working through an integration inventory to really see how our collaboration within the county office can support districts, and then how we can ensure that our collaboration is meeting the needs of districts and not duplicating services to support this community school rollout. And I have been able to be a part of the work group for the last, I believe it's the ILT that Peter was mentioning. And so that was really great to be immersed in that. And then also within our own North Star RTAC, we're really looking at how other counties are incorporating family and community voices, not only just at the county office level, but at that integrated county level. And so we're in the process of really exploring different models. And Crystal, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to talk about.
I would guess that's a no. But so you know, we appreciate this work, and I just want to say that this next step to you know, one thing that we've been talking about as a county office team is leveraging the support of Richard and Elizabeth and Michael. Again, that's been very useful, having that outside voice and helping sort of be a guidepost for some of the work that we're doing. And our next step is really to expand membership into this realm, which seems like that's where everybody's moving towards. So I think we wanted to do that out of the gate, but I think it's been good to sort of create these structures within our own organization and now stepping out and extending the work. So anyway.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the share out. We're, as you saw from the agenda, we're going to be in and out of our county breakout groups during this call. So there'll be more time to kind of talk through some of this, listen to what's going on, and then add some thinking and possibly additional nuances to your action plans. So we are going to start digging into the scenario, I believe. So let me turn this back over to Bill.
Great. Thanks, Brittany. I'm going to share my screen here. So let me just let me take over for that. Just give us a second for the technical switcheroo. All right, well, we're thanks actually to the 4 counties for the reports. Also, as Brittany said, for just the hard work you continue to do. Uh, Collaboration's hard work. Uh, there's a lot of effort to make collaboration work. It's easier to do things by yourself, and so we know the work of finding colleagues, recruiting colleagues, finding the middle ground with colleagues. Agreeing on a shared vision is hard work, and appreciate you all diving into that. Sort of to continue these conversations, as I said at the beginning of the meeting, we've kind of prepared a scenario that's going to be the basis for the remaining 90 minutes of the meeting. We're going to put that in the chat. It's about a page and a half, and it's really intended to help kickstart another conversation around what would it actually look like for a new ecosystem of care to be in place? How would families and students and youth experience the system differently? What would need to be in place? And then to really encourage you to keep thinking, well, gosh, if that's like our vision, who are we already coordinating with? Who aren't we coordinating with? Who else might be able to help us with this work? Are there other team members we need to have? Are there other team members that we do have that are less engaged? Who are our biggest champions? Who are our biggest obstacles? So we're going to be using the scenario really as a jumping off point, as I keep saying, to some conversation. It's in providing the scenario, it's going to be easy for all of us. I think to just dive in and say, let's solve the problems in this scenario specifically. Like, this kid is not getting the services he needs. What are we going to do about it? That's not the point of the scenario. The point of the scenario is not to think about it as case management or, gee, if this had only happened this way in this school building for this kid, things would have been different. It's really thinking more holistically about the family that's described in this scenario, the student James who's described in this scenario, and really thinking about them as every men or every family or every people. If this is an experience people are having in your county, what could you do to make those experiences different, to make the experiences folks have with your social services and education and behavioral health systems more coordinated, more seamless, more effective? Brittany, I can't recall, did we want folks to maybe read the scenario right now in the full group and then see if there's any questions? I can't recall where we landed, or if we want
I
folks
think
to
we
go
were
to the
going to go
breakouts.
to the breakouts and have them read them there.
Okay, so let me just put my slide up here real quickly. Hang on. All right, so I wasn't sharing my screen, but this is essentially the directions I just went through, right? We're going to use the scenario to kickstart some planning and some discussion. And as I reiterated, really think about the scenario as a way of getting your creative juices going writ large about systems change, and not about the specific challenges that you're going to be reading of James and his family. Given folks have been joining the CLWG, given some folks are able to join some months and not other months, we've tried to knit together here behind the scenes our assignments for these breakout sessions. Hopefully folks can see this. I think I did miss a couple of folks, but as a reminder, we've been trying to assign CLWG members pretty consistently to the same counties. And so whenever we have these breakout groups starting last fall, we've tried to keep you all more or less with the same county to create a sense of continuity, to help you kind of understand the journey that the county's been on, so that you kind of know the key players, the key issues, the key challenges. Having said that, there has been a little bit of shifting around. And even with this list, which I've tried to pull together, and again, I know a few of you are missing from it. I just didn't quite get it finished before this part of the meeting, just going through the the participant list for today. If you feel strongly about switching counties, you're free to do so. But generally speaking, the folks that we've got listed for Alameda, the folks we've got listed for Fresno, the folks we've got listed for Humble, and the folks that we've got listed from Imperial, from the CLWG, these are more or less the consistent assignments we'd love for you to keep. Just a kind of a process note, county team members, I didn't add you to this list. I figured you kind of knew where you were going based on your county. So what we've got here are largely the CLWG members. If you've got any questions, I'm going to go join the Fresno group, but I can hang back for a couple of seconds. And if you either want to be reassigned or feel strongly about, hey, Bill, you put me in one county, but actually you're supposed to, I really have been hanging out with a different county, just like I said, go ahead and choose that county. We're not gonna assign you in the sense of Zoom sending you to a room. You just have to choose one of those county rooms based on these assignments. So I see Jameen has just put up the breakout room. If you take a look at that, you can choose the county breakout room. If you scroll down to the assignment list and then just choose Alameda, Fresno, Humboldt, or Imperial. So I'll hang out here if there's questions. And again, feel free to switch to a different group if I've got your assignment wrong or if you feel strongly about joining a different county. Yeah. Okay.
Is the
Michael, I
link,
didn't assign you
is,
to a group. You joined a little bit, I think right as I was finalizing the list. And so I think you can just take a look at the counties. And if there's one that sort of speaks to you, I know this is your first meeting, feel free to just join one of those counties. And you can either stick with that county moving forward or, try at a different county next time.
Thank you so much. I was waiting for people to join to reach out to you to ask exactly that question.
Yeah, no,
So I
it's all good,
appreciate
Michael.
it.
So
Thank you.
just, yeah. Chris, do you know where you're supposed to be? I thought.
yeah, but I'm trying to find exactly where the link is.
So you
Is
just
it in the
scroll all the way down
document?
to the breakout room little pop-up menu.
Oh, got it,
Yeah, and then you just hit the join button.
got it. I
Yeah.
was looking for it in the
Yeah.
document in the chat. Thanks
right.
so much.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, Bill, I'm in the same boat, but I'm on my phone, so I don't know how to do the breakout
I wonder if we
rooms.
can just assign you. Remind me where you're supposed to go.
Imperial.
Okay, I'm sending you there now.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that should have just worked. Although you're still there. Is Elizabeth still there or did she just freeze? I think she froze. Okay, James, I'm going to go join Fresno with you.
Bill, can you send me to
How could it maybe work even better? So now we're coming back as a full group. Fresno graciously agreed to sort of stand in as our fishbowl. And as I told them, the idea wasn't to come forward with prepared talking points and say, we've got it all figured out. This is kind of part 2 of our learning arc. So Fresno's just going to continue the conversation about like, what could we do differently about this situation? How could we get on the more preventative side? And we're going to encourage other CLWG members and other counties to chime in along the way. And so that's, again, all part of the learning. We're not trying to say, hey, somebody's figured it out here. We're all in this together. And Fresno, as I said, has graciously agreed to start trying to raise these issues publicly for the rest of us to kind of chime in and ask questions about or offer alternative perspectives. And then we'll have a chance as kind of the last part of our arc here at the last part of the meeting to break again into our county teams and just sort of use those final minutes of the meeting to kind of take stock of where we are. Like, what did we learn? What do we make sense of all this? What might we do next? So with that, let me turn things over to my colleague, Ronita Guha, who is going to manage this next little part of our learning arc.
All right, thanks, Bill. Again, my name is Ronita. I'm on the Ed First team with Bill and Brittany, and excited to be here with you all today. We are going to we're calling this a fishbowl. We're going to see if it's going to work. But we want to use this as an opportunity to have Fresno reflect on the scenario and how they would respond, as Bill mentioned. And again, we're using this as a learning opportunity. Not everyone has figured everything out, right? And so Fresno's doing some really great stuff. There's also room for growth. And so we want to talk through some of that. One of the things we're going to do right now is to make it feel like a fishbowl is we're going to ask that we're going to hide all the non-video participants. So if you're not part of the fishbowl, we're going to ask that you turn off your video so that only the people in the fishbowl have their videos on. So if you're part of the fishbowl, you're going to keep your video on. If you're not part of the fishbowl, you're going to turn it off. But when you want to come off mute and speak and engage in the conversation, turn on your video. So that's why that way we can just look at the people who are actually in conversation. And so Brittany has some instructions here. You'll go to the view at the top right of your Zoom screen and select hide non-video participants. She also has instructions for if you're on your phone. And again, when you are invited and wish to join the fishbowl, please turn on your video and then turn it off when you leave the fishbowl.
Yeah, it all circles around hiding the non-video participants. Because once you then turn off your video, all you'll see are the people in the fishbowl. And then when you turn your video back on, then you've joined the fishbowl. And when you turn it off, then you've left it. But you have to do that first crucial hiding thing up in the view monitor.
So we hope you will still be active listeners. Just because you're off video
Yes.
doesn't mean you get to disengage. You have to
Yes.
be an active listener, because we do want you to jump into the conversation and share your own reflections from your county, or advice or wisdom or feedback or questions. All right. So let's introduce the Fresno team. I think there was a slide with our participants. All right, so we have Tammy Freitas from the Senior Director of Behavioral Health Programs, Trina Frazier, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Holly Northcross from the Washington Unified School District, and Ashley Schoolfield, also from the Washington Unified School District. So thank you to the four of you for joining us today.
Sorry, I was just kind of scrolling through. I think Gina's joined us as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And Ashley unfortunately couldn't make it, but Gina.
Okay. Perfect. Well, welcome, Gina. All right. So would love for you all to reflect on the scenario that we just spent some time discussing. And my first question for you all is, what elements of Fresno County's current system of care are in play in this scenario, and how would a student like Jackson be supported in Fresno? What would be similar or different?
Well, I could start with that is basically we work closely with CPS and social services, but also special ed, as well as our school psychologists doing a lot of the work. But the other big thing, and also we provide behavioral health services at that specialty mental health level where Jackson is at. So we would be providing those services. But in Fresno, we also have our wellness centers, and we pride ourselves on, instead of waiting for a student like this to get services at age 11, we really pride ourselves on doing prevention and early intervention work. And so our big takeaway was really getting to the student in kindergarten when we first heard about it, or even earlier, because hopefully we're getting out. What we do a lot of is prevention outreach for families that were struggling at 5. This family was struggling, and hopefully they could get into early intervention services like with Central Valley Regional Center, or early start services that we also provide, instead of going into CPS and meeting that family very early on. But also, since CPS was involved at 5, how we could have that clear communication with AB 2083 and supporting the whole child, and letting us know that this child was removed, and how we could support in kindergarten instead of waiting until the first time he was in special ed was at age 11.
Thanks, Tammy. And I'm wondering if you could, we can dig in a little bit more, and if you could share a little bit about the communication and coordination structures you have in place to support that sort of preventative care.
Yeah, we work. Yeah, go ahead, Trina.
I think through the AB 2083, we have really been able to, we've worked a lot about building trust with one another. We've been working with Richard, and that's where we started. I think that we had to put aside any issues that we had had with each other in the past, or talk about them, because the agencies didn't necessarily work cohesively together. And that's what we've been able to do, is talk about those things that have happened in the past and move forward. So now we have a connection with all of them, where we know who to call if we have a situation like Jackson is going through. We have those relationships built, and or they pick up the phone or we pick up the phone, and we have that communication. And that's something that we didn't have in the past with those other agencies.
Fresno has also been involved in, or create the hub of a NIC, a foster youth NIC. And it started just in Fresno Unified, and it's expanded now to 5 districts in our county. where we have all these different agencies like DSS and probation, the judicial system, who are at the table having conversations around how to decrease movement and increase stability for our foster youth. So that is a model that's now spreading through other districts to ensure that information and connection and support follows that student as they move through the system. Holly, I know Holly probably has more to offer.
Yeah, I was just, reflecting on, this is a case where I've seen similar students like this come into the high school setting. And, just, I think one thing that's improved since working, because previous to this, I was a school psychologist, is that the communication has improved. Before, I felt like when there were so many agencies involved, you kind of didn't know who was the point of contact for which agency. But I feel like over the years, that's improved. And I think it's important to have a strong, understanding of who's kind of managing the case and who's your go-to for this person. Because a lot of times, probation's involved, and it's like probation called the school, and it's like, they just call the front office and they don't know who to talk to. So I think it's important to understand, to have those very clear connections. And with the program All for Youth, I feel like that's really improved because they've been very helpful in creating the behavior, who's the point person for behavior, for mental health, for the IEP. And it's easier to kind of get everybody to the table that's involved with the student. So yeah, that's one thing that struck me in this. And I think that was a question on here, like who should be the case manager of this? And I think that's so important.
Yeah, I'm wondering also if any of you can just speak to when does a case get to the point in which there are multiple agencies and it's sort of considered more high risk versus what sort of what's the system for any kid, right? Versus the kid who's really considered high risk. And I'm sort of curious how you differentiate. I think you might have had some conversation in your small group before you joined.
I think it gets to the place like when you actually go to a case consultation, when all of the parties feel like they've run out of resources, and bringing everyone to the table to say, do you have anything further that you can bring to the table here? I can remember in one specific case, the student was doing not well at home and not well in the community, but was doing, we found out later, really well in school. And that was the one place they were doing well at. So it's just really important that if it gets to that place where you feel like you've run out of resources, is to bring that team together. But in Jackson's case, we might bring the team at the school and those agencies together at the school level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on the severity.
And I think before it gets too far, just as Trina said, all of those people that are supporting that child at the school site, expanded learning partners, a teacher, like any other relationships that student has, we definitely want to leverage that as much as we can before it gets to that extreme level. And we do that through, oftentimes our community school coordinators. And I know, Holly, you can speak to the Washington approach and how students move from level 1 to level 2.
Yeah, as far as just level of need, we do have a tiered system for social emotional supports, and that the team typically will consult with an All for Youth clinician, which is a therapist on campus, and then they help determine like, oh, this is a level 3, they need the specialized mental health, or this is a level 2, they could use more skill building groups. Or it could be a wellness coach referral where, and they could have some combination of things. Maybe the wellness coaches help out with the family's, resources or parent training while the student receives individual counseling. So we do have the tiered system here at this district.
Thanks, Holly. Anne, I see you come on video. So I presume that means you're joining the fishbowl. So I want to give you an opportunity to jump in. Well, yeah, Anne, did you want to jump in with anything?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay. That's fine. Just as a reminder, if you want to join the fishbowl to ask a question, make a point, share a lesson, please turn on your video. Otherwise, turn it off. Does anyone want to jump in and share an insight or ask a question before I move on?
Renita, I might chime in just because I had the luxury, the benefit, the joy of sitting with the Fresno team here. And Holly, just your comment made me start thinking, like, as we think about a more systemic approach to serving Jackson and his family, like what approach might just be, we duplicate Holly and her role across every single school. And so basically we have case managers, community support folks in every single school building that are really, this is what they do all day. They're just connecting dots and pulling together services. And I wondered if that was a solution. But then, Tammy, you also talked about it was probably pretty clear, given Jackson's history, that challenges were likely to emerge in his life, and that the school system didn't know any of that before Jackson showed up. I mean, it wasn't even until middle school where these problems started manifesting themselves in the classroom. And so there's also something about, even if the schools have people on staff, like who's kind of talking about kids as they're moving through the system. And I just wondered if any of you from Fresno had any more reflections on what are the points of intervention or the points of prevention, and would also, folks from some of the other counties have ideas or suggestions here, you should join as well.
Sorry.
Yeah, we were saying in Fresno, we pride ourselves on getting kids connected to care early, but also it really is a systemic issue because we really try to look at the whole child. But oftentimes, when you are new to the profession, you often go, we try to put labels on the youth, right? And that's kind of the old school way of thinking. It's like, okay, for special ed, he has to be eligible for a learning disability. So let's wait and watch. When there's so many things that you could do early on, like for example, our wellness centers, there's spaces where our kids could come in and get ways of regulating their feelings and emotions, get a take break card. Our school psychologists or our wellness coaches or our family partners could go in the classrooms and help set up like wellness break areas in the classrooms so that kids are getting take a break from their academics or supports, and then that communication with the school system and the teachers on where to go for support. But early on, if we could have had a great conversation with the social services and let us know, we don't need to know all the full detail of why the little one was removed. Jackson was removed at 5. But if we would have had a point person like Holly and that CPS or social worker would have said, hey, Johnny's struggling, he's going to need supports, he's going to be new, he's moving homes, he's a new school, how can we help? And we collectively came together. Then that probably would have been a different trajectory for Jackson. We don't really know though, right?
Thanks, Tammy.
But I'll say those conversations have come up in our 2083 meeting, where there are different institutions who say, yeah, but we can't. And so it allows us to have those conversations to say, does it take for us to get that information? Like what can we do and how can we do it better?
Can you, any of you speak to some of the formal structures you have in place through 2083, like an ILT or EAC, to solve for some of these issues either early, like Tabby even talked about, like when the student is young, or even later? Just wondering if you'd speak to some of those formal structures you have and how you're using them and who's a part of those.
We have both a formal ILT and an EAC, and right now we're going to meet on Wednesday, and we're going to pretty much finish our MOU. I think we get through most of it, and all of the agencies are there present, so we work through it together. We look at it ahead of time, then we work through it together. But we do have those things in place, and we've put a lot of language in about how we can work together. Sometimes people don't feel like because of confidentiality they can work together, but we've put stops in place so that we are able to do that and be able to work with one another. And for our EAC, we have Department of Social Services, Department of Behavioral Health. We have Central Valley Regional Center. We have education is always there. So We have three staff from education that attend those meetings. And then there are others, probation is there. And then there are others that join us and give presentations about some of the things that they're doing in the field. So, I mean, you can have nurses, social workers, case managers, those types of people join for different circumstances.
Thanks, Trina. And I'm curious also if you could speak to in those structures, who's really driving the cross-agency collaboration and who's maybe not in the room but needs to be.
And then, who else is in the room are the tribes. So that's been a really, really great addition to the EAC. That's one of the things that we're looking at identifying, like we're talking right now about adding the managed care plans to our EAC. And I think we'll get to a place where we do add them to that. So that we're identifying those people that are maybe missing from that group. And it's really good because Richard works in a way where he doesn't tell you what you need to do, but he just plants thoughts and kind of lets you go with them from there.
Yeah.
And kind of guides us through the process. But doesn't tell us what we should be doing. He really wants it to be something that is specific to our county and it's going to work for our county. And so, but it's been really great to work with him on that.
And like, sort of, how did you come to the conclusion that you needed to include managed care? What was the problem you're trying to solve for?
Well, I think they have a lot to offer. A lot of times they have coverage that youth could be getting or have input that is valuable in the conversations that we're having. And so I think it's important for them to be at the table.
Kind of a related question too then is how are you seeing these structures help solve for the kinds of challenges we're seeing with Jackson in this scenario in either a prevention or an intervention model? Like, how are these structures designed to support young people like Jackson?
I think we started with just building the trust and the relationships because that's really what it's all based on. Richard encouraged us to, talk about the things because, some agencies, they do butt heads every once in a while or they don't agree on something. And so to talk about those things that have happened in the past so that we can move forward and have those really strong relationships and be able to collaborate with one another. But I think that's been really, really important and has built that trust because we trust each other. And so therefore we're not afraid to talk about things or to say, well, really, I think you should step up to help with that student or, really education needs to step in and help with that student. And so I think that it's built that trust. And then it also has built the relationship in that you know who to call, you knew how to pick up the phone and call if you need help. We didn't necessarily have that in the past.
Yeah, I'd agree with Trina. A greater degree of awareness of who's out there and who's doing things because there's more reach out from those other organizations to us. And I think we reach out to them more now because we know.
Yeah, and adding to this would be having a no wrong door policy, meaning if the youth came to us and they weren't, somebody made a referral for all for you services thinking they needed mental health, we just don't say, oh, sorry, we don't do that. And no, we walk along and help navigate, and we maybe connect them to another agency or another and get in there and help make sure they're linked and follow up and make sure they're getting the services that they need. And basically meeting the family where they are, meaning they could come and walk in, we could talk on the phone, they could text us. There's multiple ways to get into the system and also try being very, very visible in the community. Really getting to know the community and what their needs are.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I just really appreciate the work you all have done around building trust and collaboration. Wondering if, and Holly, feel free to jump in, but one of the questions I want to ask you is if you could speak to some of the challenges or times when your efforts at collaboration have been derailed or set back and how you've sort of managed through that. So I wanted to ask that, but Holly, if you want to sort of jump in with the previous point, that's fine too.
Oh yeah. Kind of forgot what I was saying now. I would think I was saying how we've kind of connected with the community and just knowing their needs. I've just worked out here forever as part of it, and that's been helpful. Just, you get to know all the intricacies of the community. But we've been able to utilize our wellness center well to do that. We'll host events to get the community to come out, just build a sense of trust again, so that parents feel comfortable talking to you and being honest with you. Even our wellness center referrals have shed some light on the needs of the community. So, we have, all of a sudden we have all these needs around concerns about immigration laws. And that's something that's been put on our radar, or food insecurity, and it's nice to just even use that as kind of those referrals as hard data to know what the needs of the community are. So that's been really helpful.
Okay. Yeah, so just wanted to go back to just the challenges to collaboration, or what some of any setbacks that you all have experienced, because this is hard work, right? Bringing all these folks together.
I can speak a little bit to, sorry.
No, go ahead, Holly.
Personal, back when I was a school psychologist, sometimes the hard part was kind of feeling, who has the responsibility over the student, like ultimately, and kind of a concern of you don't want to be the one like that dropped the ball, and so I feel like sometimes there was some of that, and also there was just a difference in opinion or philosophy on how to approach the situation sometimes, whether some people would feel the more services, the better, and just kind of want to throw everything at them. And other people would be more systematic, like, hey, it's not always that more services is better, and trying to kind of work through some of those different philosophies.
Were you going to jump in?
I think through the process, it's about learning. Sometimes I can be a little naive, and I think I'm trying to read the room, and they're talking about who's going to be responsible financially, and should they be responsible financially, and so it's like, and you just try to pick up on those cues, but then support where, I think if you always think about the student or the child, then you're going to make the right decisions for that student or child. And I think that's what we really try to do in that group. But there's little things like that I have to really pay attention to, like, okay, does one agency feel like another should be responsible over them? And so those are some of the things that I'm kind of learning through being on that committee.
Do you feel like those things are resolved? Like going back to Holly's, point about it's not always clear who's responsible. Does that feel clearer now, or what's the work to be done?
Yeah, no, we work through it. Yeah.
We also use the line from July, I'm going to say 8th, 2024 in Anaheim. Put the money on the table, put the hands behind your back, and let's talk about what's good for kids, right? We talk about that a lot.
Thanks. Anne, I saw your hand was raised a couple minutes ago. Did you have a question or reflection that you wanted to jump in with? Anne Powell?
Yeah, I think it's been answered, but it's the question of A, who owns the kid? And B, how do you navigate out-of-home care costs when you have multiple agencies involved?
Good question. Someone want to jump in?
I think that's always hard to do because of it would be great if we could collectively share funding, but ultimately it comes down to who's going to pay and why, and who needs to pay and why, and those conversations. But I think ultimately in the near future, hopefully that's something that we could always have a good dialogue and have a shared collective pot of funding where you're not arguing, oh, it's education, no, it's social services, no, it's behavioral health, no, it's this. But if we could actually share the cost, and that's a big benefit for the family and for the youth. But that's a tough one to overcome. Yeah.
And I think that's what community schools are all about, though. I think it's coming to the table and saying, I can do this, what can you do? And well, I can help with this area, or I can do this. And I think it's spreading those resources, and everybody at the table walks away with something they're going to be responsible for that's going to help Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with Trina. It's really about the student at the core. The student at the core of everything we do. Even in our internal advisory, we are getting to the student level and the family level because that's where the magic can happen.
Any one else who is off video, does anyone want to come on and share a comment, reflection, or ask a question? Because I think we need to wrap up in the next minute or so, but just want to give space for anyone else who wants to jump in. And I know for me, this conversation is really resonating with the one I was just in with Alameda. So I don't know if any Alameda folks want to share a thought. Well, Tina, Holly, Gina, Tammy, thank you so much for being in the hot seat. Elizabeth, I just saw you come off video. Did you want to jump in with a comment?
I just want to say one thing, which is thank you guys so much. So helpful. And it would be lovely, Tammy, if we can build a world where Jackson, who is not alone in his challenges, he represents many families in California across every county. If we could proactively figure out how we are as an ecosystem would solve for Jackson's challenges and support him in a intervention model, no matter what stage he's in, whether he's 5 or 11 or now where he's sitting here and everyone is saying, nope, we're not going to place here. Nope, we can't do that. How would we organize our system so that we have that answer before Jackson shows up? So Tammy, I so appreciate if we can figure that out proactively, it'd be phenomenal. And I know we can.
Yeah, we can.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again, Fresno County team. We're so glad you could be with us. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing what you've been doing. And I'm going to turn it over to Bill or Brittany. I'm not sure.
Brittany, yeah.
But it's in our final breakout.
Awesome. We're going to go back to breakout groups. If you all want to go back up to your right corner view and undo the hide non-video participants, you can do that if you choose. We just want to go back into your groups and think about these questions.
Whoops.
Brittany cut out.
I think people are being moved into their breakout groups. And so
we'll see you in your breakouts.
Yeah. All right.
That's okay.
When we shift from groups here, I think I was sharing my screen with my Fresno group. I'm just going to put this slide back up. This is the one that Brittany was going through right before we got moved into breakout groups. Hopefully you had a chance to discuss some of these questions. I put up this slide in my Fresno group just because I'd encourage, as we kind of wrap up today's meeting, for everybody to think about that last question of what continued help or support or resources would you want access to keep moving forward. That, again, the point of transforming together is to help spur on the work in Alameda and Imperial and Humboldt and Fresno in moving to a more preventative stand and to moving towards a more collaborative stand in terms of leveraging dollars that are kind of distributed in lots of different ways in the system and thinking in new ways about how those resources can be deployed. So we've got the CLWG here. We've got subject matter experts like Elizabeth, Richard, and Mike, who I know have been playing key roles. But as you all think about what else would be helpful, I hope you'll be reaching out to James and his colleagues at San Bernardino and just say, hey, next time we come together, we could really use a deeper dive into this. Or even between these meetings, hey, we're getting ready for a meeting next week, and it'd be really helpful to bounce some ideas off folks about how we might bring some of these issues forward. So again, just want to remind folks, this is all about technical assistance, and please do think about if there are places where T2 can lean in and help a little bit, and don't be afraid to ask. All right, well, with that, we're going to start wrapping things up here. Our next meeting is in about 4 weeks. It'll be a virtual meeting. We've got 2 more meetings left after this one. We have a May meeting and a June meeting. And as I kind of hinted at the beginning of today's meeting, we'll be spending more time in May picking up some of the pieces of Chapter 2, looking at, which again deals with sort of needs assessment, community engagement, looking at data, setting goals as a group. I also just should mention that earlier this year, all of you had a chance to weigh in on sort of the implementation guide that's being created on a parallel track to kind of document what we're all learning, capture best practices, address the issues you're raising real time to kind of share out with other counties. And so Chapter 1 is moving along great, thanks to all your comments earlier this spring, and Chapter 2 is in the same place. And just wanted to let you know that work is moving forward at a similar great pace as well. Karen, I think you were going to maybe put a note in the chat for a quick survey. These are super easy multiple choice surveys. They just give us like a little temperature check about how the meeting went for you today. And if you have a chance to fill that out before signing off, that would be great. Any other final announcements, questions, points of business before we wrap up for the morning? All right. Well, thanks everyone. Really appreciate your time, attention, your good work, your thinking, and feedback form is in the chat. Please try to fill that out in your final 30 seconds here before 11 o'clock and you switch to your next meeting or your next activity. We'll see you all in about 4 weeks, and have a good rest of the day, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.